is up, DC fans, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another Doom Patrol video. It has been way too long since I've talked about this show on my channel. If you guys didn't know, I did episode reviews up until like episode 10 or 11, I believe, and then I kind of dropped off just because there's so much to do and talk about. I had to make some adjustments to what I was doing on my channel, but I did promise you that I would be back for a full season review, and this is that season review. Now, here's what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to start out doing a non-spoiler review. I'm going to give you guys my score, and then if you want to stick around just for a few spoilers here and there, we will talk about those. If not, you guys will get the gist of how I feel about this show and if it is worth watching or not. So today we're talking Doom Patrol. I need you guys in the comments down below. Let me know which episode was your favorite and how did you feel about this show as a whole. And if you haven't seen it, are you excited for it? And is the DC Universe streaming app worth getting to see this show? Let's talk about Doom Patrol Season 1. So Doom Patrol is the adventures of an idealistic mad scientist and his field team of super-powered outcasts. Don't worry, I have seen the comments. You guys have been asking me my temperature, what I've been feeling about the previous few episodes, and if I have been as on board as I was for the first batch of episodes. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, this entire season for me has been so consistent, a consistent level of something that maybe I didn't expect, especially coming from a show in Titans. Now, I liked Titans when I watched it. I did have some flaws, some issues with the storytelling. I think it was too dark for its own good, meaning it tried to be something, and maybe it tried a bit too hard, whereas Doom Patrol, everything feels like it comes so natural. Doom Patrol knows exactly what it is. It does not give an F, in the words of Robot Man. It doesn't care what people think about it. It is going to give you an episode so out there, so zany and crazy, and then the next episode, it's going to focus on the emotional aspects of your characters and flesh them out. And this is a show that is not concerned with, well, it's taking too much time to flesh out these characters. Nah, Doom Patrol said, we're going to do this how we want to do it. We're going to establish this team. We're going to take each individual character and give them a reason for being there in the first place. And we are going to allow the audience to understand why they are here watching this show, what they knew they were in for, plus something completely different. And it all comes from the story and the storytelling and really the characters. The cast and the characters is what made Doom Patrol what it was. It's what gave us the opportunity to get to those awesome episodes towards the end. And it all starts for me with my favorite character, and that is Robot Man, played by the ever so talented Brendan Fraser, who I have been missing for quite some time in the world of movies and television shows. He's popped up here and there, yes, but this for me is really his reestablishing as a fantastic actor. He is so awesome in this show. Now, a lot of people, everyone is going to have a different favorite character, whether it's Crazy Jane or Negative Man or Mr. Nobody. Mine is Robot Man. It has been Robot Man for quite some time because his sense of humor, I am all the way there for, and he always says what the audience is thinking, and we learn more about him and his relationship with his daughter the further we got through the series. And when it comes to a head in the final few episodes, that storyline in particular, I was really on board with. It was emotional, and it's crazy how you can feel such emotion towards a character who has no mouth movements. You can really not tell his expressions through his face. You can tell through his voice, acting, and his movements, and I think Brendan Fraser does a fantastic job as he, but I don't just want to talk about him, I want to talk about everyone. Diane Guerrero as Crazy Jane. I started out lukewarm on her at the beginning of the season. By the end of the season, she's one of my favorite characters. I think Matt Bomer as Negative Man was just awesome. I mean, his storyline was emotional, and you understood why he did what he did. Even in the final 2 episodes, you're still learning more about him, and he is turning into someone completely different. Every character arc and story arc in this show had a purpose, served its purpose, and turned these characters from what we knew in the beginning into someone or something completely different. And we learn in the last 2 episodes, once again, that some of them are not the same characters as they started out as, not just physically, but mentally. They're in different mental states, and it's cool to see them come together as a team. Now, the entire premise of the season, the end game, even though they got off topic here and there, which I'm all for and okay with because those off-topic situations gave us some of my favorite moments in the episodes. But Chief, Timothy Dalton as Chief, the goal was to find him, and that was the through line throughout the entire season. And the villain Mr. Nobody, played by Alan Tudyk, who was just... We'll get into that here in just a second. That relationship between those two, the main good guy, if you will, and the main bad guy, was another storyline that I didn't expect to get fleshed out like it did. I didn't expect Chief not to have his own episode, but to have a major portion of one particular episode where it explored an aspect of his character and started talking about his daughter and family members and reasonings for why he is who he is now. And then you learn something about his character by the end of the season, and it turns him into something completely different. And all of those story elements made him a character that at the beginning I'm like, okay, they're not going to focus on him. He's kind of like the MacGuffin. We have to go get Chief. But then they kept flashing back, and they even fleshed out Mr. Nobody, who I didn't need fleshing out because he's such a good villain in the first place. I was okay with him just being that menacing, fourth wall breaking villain that he was throughout every single episode. Now, there were a few episodes where he wasn't either in them or he was lacking just a bit, but overall, one of the most entertaining performances I have seen all year. He's over the top. Like I said, he talks to the audience. He makes everyone aware, hey, we're in a TV show. So I'm going to tell you guys that we are in a particular episode and we are teasing another episode. He made all of those things clear, and the show writers did not care that it was over the top. They did not care that it was zany or wacky, because that's what the Doom Patrol is. Now, I haven't been reading my Doom Patrol. I am not completely aware of their storylines in the comic books, but from what I have heard, this show is so accurate to what this team is and who these characters are that I was completely okay with the fact that this show gets so wacky and over the top at times. You have a genderqueer street that is the focus of one episode. In another episode, you have a guy who inhales hair, and that's how he tracks people down. And then in another episode, you have a rat who wants to get revenge on a particular character in our team. So he infiltrates the body and the mind of that character. If you have never seen this show and you're listening to those situations, you're probably tuning out and going, you know what, this show sounds really weird. I don't know if I want to watch it. No, everything I just said, imagine that, but in the best and most entertaining way possible, with Mr. Robot spouting out, what the F is going on, every 5 minutes, and it never got old. April Bowlby as Elastigirl, she was awesome. Cyborg is a character that I started out, if you guys watched any of my episode reviews, in the first few episodes, I was not on board, not with his character, with his performance as the character. But I do believe as the show progressed and went on, his performance became less of an issue for me, and I think he really came into his own as an actor. By the end of this season, I'm like, yeah, this is Cyborg, and he's good. He is owning it. I think it's because he had some time to get used to playing this character, and he really came into his own, especially by episode 15, in which Cyborg was really playing two different roles without giving spoilers, but he was so good. And Joivin, I don't know how to say his name, but this guy really impressed me by the end of the season, and I apologize for giving you grief at the beginning of the season because you really came into your own. Now, my big issue with this season is I was wanting way more action than I actually got. It felt like this show didn't have the budget to give us action with the characters involving the special effects, aka Elastigirl and Negative Man, sorta, but Robot Man, he had one really cool action scene. You know what, actually, two really cool action scenes in the show, but that's about it. Crazy Jane got a really good one. I think every character got close to an awesome action scene, but the action never played an integral role in this season. This season for me was all about this team coming together, putting aside their differences, and realizing what makes them special as opposed to what makes them different from everyone else. They had to come to terms with their powers and their abilities, and come to terms with how their lives, their old lives, came to an end, starting their new lives as the Doom Patrol, and that for me was the focus. Therefore, the action was put on the back burner. I am okay with that. I did want to see a bit more, especially towards the end. You have the showdown with certain villains, and you expect more action, but those villains aren't necessarily villains that require action from the characters. So I can understand that choice and that decision. That is really my only major flaw with this season. There were one or two characters that didn't necessarily work for me, and I didn't love them as characters. I thought they focused on them a bit too much, and these are just side characters, nobody as a part of our team. Other than that small flaw and the action consequence, I thought this season of television was fantastic, magnificent, one of the best television shows in the superhero genre, if you will, that I have seen in a long time. And I'm going to give Doom Patrol Season 1 in its entirety a 90%. This show is awesome. Possibly, I don't know yet, possibly my favorite season of television that I have watched this year. And you guys know how much TV I've watched this year. It is ridiculous. I am watching a new show every week. I'm watching What If on Netflix right now to review for you guys tomorrow, but Doom Patrol was just awesome. Okay, that's non-spoilers. Let's talk a few spoilers and just kind of dive in what I missed talking about in the previous few episodes. And we got introduced to a new character who was really cool, Flex Mentallo, and all I can think about is that scene in, I believe, episode 15 when he is flexing. Is this weird to say? When he is flexing and he gives everyone on the street orgasms. Yeah, I just said that. That was like peak Doom Patrol for me. If you're watching this show and then you get to that episode and you're not on board for that decision, I don't know what to tell you, because you've already experienced so much at this point. You should have fallen off in like episode 2, but that is peak Doom Patrol. It was so over the top and crazy, and all they needed was to get to the white space, and it came out of nowhere, and I feel weird saying I loved it, but that was a good decision, was it? I guess it was. Also, did you guys spot the cameo in episode 13, who ended up being Mr. Nobody, but Ed Asner? He has played so many roles in his lifetime. He's like 90-something years old, and the last 3 times I've seen him, he's played an old guy in a nursing home setting or a hospital, so I kind of feel bad for him because he's being typecast in those roles, but I love his voice, and I love the fact that he made that cameo because his role in that episode, getting Elastigirl to believe in herself, I thought was really well played, and it was just it was a cool cameo. But that entire sequence of events, capturing Cyborg and Cyborg being mind manipulated to really hurt his father, and then learning the truth from his father about his mother, that all was a giant emotional arc for Cyborg. And like I said earlier in the review, the arcs for these characters, whether it is Robot Man and his daughter's arc, I just love that moment where she saw the writing and I think she knew that was her father. How is that going to come into play in Season 2? If we get a Season 2, I really hope it does. Negative Man is another character who had a very emotional storyline when he goes back and visits the guy who is completely and utterly old now, and then watches him on that chair just kind of slowly go out of it. I mean, that was very emotional in itself, and there's so many things that I can talk about. Even our new guy, Flex Mentallo, when they bring his wife to him, and they told her that she could not get close to him, otherwise she would die, which is what happens. That was very emotional, and we had just really met this character once he remembered who he was for the first time, and all of that, man, the fact that Doom Patrol can make me care about someone named Flex Mentallo, who walks around with his shirt off, flexes his muscles, and crazy things happen around him, that's ridiculous. But that's Doom Patrol, man. Hashtag that's Doom Patrol. That's what this show has been doing for me. It emotionally grabs you in the storyline and allows you to sympathize with these characters that, frankly, no one else in their world will sympathize with. And then you get to that final episode where everything is happening with Mr. Nobody. You have the end of episode 14 where they're in this time loop, right? And then the chief tells them why what happened to them in the first place happened. And it's just this giant emotional gut punch. And at that point, when Mr. Nobody is telling him you have to tell them the truth, I think a lot of people watching this show, they're going to understand and know what is about to happen. They're going to know that he is going to break this crazy news to them that we could kind of anticipate was going to be, it's my fault. What happened to all of you was because of me, because I needed you guys in my life for this reason. But then I turned loving and I started to really enjoy your company and we became a team. Yeah, that's a bit cliche and conventional, but the way it was handled, it really was heartbreaking because everyone cared so much about Chief, and then they realized that Chief was the reason for all of this bad stuff happening to them in the first place. But then the characters start to realize all of this stuff happening to them turned them in to good people, made them a family, made them a team. And after all the crap that went down with Mr. Nobody and the big cockroach and when they team up, I thought was fantastic. But then that storyline comes to a head and we get our big climactic showdown, which was just which was just crazy. I like how Danny the Streak came back into play. I like how Beard Hunter came back into play. A lot of people did not like Beard Hunter as a character, but I think this last episode made him a bit more of a likable / unlikable character, a more entertaining character. I will say that. And then the sacrifice that they make at the end and where our characters end up, very, very tiny, except for Negative Man, but that entire arc, and really the final episode in general, it was so crazy and wacky. You got a giant cockroach walking around making out with the rat. Like, it was weird. I'm not gonna lie to you. And I might have to go back and watch that episode again because I'm still kind of confused as to what happened. But once again, hashtag, that's Doom Patrol. That's what Doom Patrol does to you, man. You get that emotional resolution with these characters. And guys, I can't wait to see another season of this show. I really hope nothing happens to this show. I'm a bit worried about the DC streaming app there not getting as much usage as they wanted to. And there were rumors that Swamp Thing was about to go under and, oh, we've done this already, but we can't continue making the show because we don't have the resources supporting. Guys, we have to support this show. Spread the word about Doom Patrol. I love Doom Patrol. I can't wait for another season. When that other season comes, maybe we can do some prediction videos. Whatever you guys want to see from me, let me know. Thank you so much for hitting the thumbs up button on this video. It really helps my videos and just watching it in the first place. One of the reasons why I stopped doing Doom Patrol individual episode reviews is because it wasn't enough interaction to sustain making those videos, and frankly, I was making 3-4 videos on Friday. I had to cut something because my social life was non-existent and my full-time job is also kind of taking its toll on me. So I hope you guys can understand that, but I really enjoyed doing this season review. And if you guys want any more individual Doom Patrol videos, maybe a tier list, because I've been making tier lists, and maybe we can do something with these characters or these shows. Regardless, guys, I appreciate you watching this video, sticking to it until the end. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you for watching Doom Patrol, spreading the word about this awesome series, and I hope to catch you guys very soon in another review.